your future vision, and, you know, as long as we can continue to see those types of things, we are really appreciative.
Mr. Lee, I know you met with me earlier with the representative from Norwood Hills. The email's already gone out to all of our deputies and supervisors. They're aware of the problems there. And the next week or two, we'll make contact with the residents to try and know.
Great job. Nice job. Thank you.
Good job.
Okay, that concludes the sheriff's report. Is there anybody in the audience that has any questions for the sheriff's office? Okay, I know there's nothing under unfinished business, but I did forget at the beginning of the meeting to note for the record that our administrator, Ms. Campbell, is excused this evening. As their daughter was being inducted into the National Honor Society, so take care of family first. Let the record reflect. New business. First item here is a reminder. Notice that the Stark County Township Association's annual meeting with the Stark County engineer, Keith Bennett's office, is going to be Thursday, March 17th, 2016, at 5 p.m. It's a dinner and a meeting. So please ensure that you RSVP if you haven't already. The next thing we have under new business number 2 is the Stark County Regional Planning Commission. That is the 2016 dues, and we've got a motion that be hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to pay the 2016 Stark County Regional Planning Commission dues and to authorize payment in the amount of $3,000 from Fund 01A26E.
I'll second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
That'll conclude new business. I'm going to turn it over to our fiscal officer, Mr. Flex.
Mr. Haas, first item on the agenda is a request for a resolution to authorize the payment of the pending warrants.
I will so move.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Second item is a request for a resolution to authorize the payment of the regular payroll.
I will so move.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Third item on the agenda is a request for a resolution by the board to authorize the payment for the following medical claims.
I will so move.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fourth item on the agenda is the financial report.
Gentlemen, have any questions? Okay.
And the last item on the agenda is a request for resolution to authorize my office to request an additional amended certificate for the capital project building that was passed last meeting, and then also upon certification to appropriate the funds.
I will so move on fiscal officer number 5.
I will second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
That'll conclude the fiscal officer's report for
Thank you,
tonight.
Mr. Flax. It's going to take us to our fire department. I'm going to turn that over to Chief Snyder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 1 is the February's monthly report.
Chief, just as a quick question, I mean, are we seeing any spikes or more than unusual activity with any of our areas that abut the city of Canton, given some of the station closure activity they're faced with, given the budget and so forth?
Yeah, they've called us out a few times that we didn't respond to, based on we've been busy too. I know they've had a couple fires going on at the same time. They had the EMS call. We went to Mercy Medical Center on a smoke investigation with one of their engines a couple weeks ago that they had. Everybody else goes on those, actually our tower line. But we try to limit that as best we can based on the needs of the township. So we've seen a little bit,
Nothing drastic.
nothing drastic.
Okay. Questions on the matter?
Yeah, this format's pretty easy to read.
Okay. Item number 2 is a resolution to authorize the purchase of a Rice hydroelectric 3 GPM hose tester from Finley Fire Equipment and not to exceed $2,400.
I will so move.
Second.
Discussion, Chief, can you
Yes.
just clarify?
Sure.
This is is it regular annual test or?
Yeah, it's annual test and it's required. We do all of our, every piece of hose we have, whether it's in reserve, on the rack, or on the trucks, that we test every year. We have to keep record of that. And in past years, we've always used a fire truck to do the hose testing, which is probably not the most safest way to do it. So this basically does two things where it doesn't tie up a fire truck when we're testing hose, plus it's a much safer way of testing the hose itself. In case we do have a hose that ruptures or bursts, that it's more of a controlled atmosphere using this hose tester. This is electric. We've checked on gas, and people we talked to do have. There's 3 or 4 fire departments now that are using these, and they recommend using the electric one because the gas ones have not been sufficient. You stall out or something happens, then you'll start to test over again, but we've had more success with electric, which is actually cheaper too, so.
That's what we have in Cabo. It's the same one.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 3 is to authorize the purchase payment of 40 Honeywell EV1 traditional helmets from Carnes.
I will so move.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Just to let the board know too, there's a 10-year lifespan on those helmets. We have actually some helmets that have exceeded that 10 years already. We have a few that's coming real close, so we've evaluated the helmets that we currently have. Some of the helmets that are still, we just bought in the last few years, obviously we're not going to replace right now, but we're in need of those. And then in anticipation, also some additional helmets for some new hires this year. Item number 4 is authorized purchase payment for 46 Vantage helmet mounted lights. Again, these are lights that are mounted, LED lights that are actually mounted to the helmet. We have a few of the guys right now have those lights. They work really well in low visibility. So they've asked, if we can purchase those and put them on all the helmets, so that's what we're going to do with that.
I will so move.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 5 is a resolution to purchase payment for 12 sets of firefighter personnel equipment from Fire Force.
I will so move.
Seconded.
Discussion, Chief, is this just part of the natural
Yes,
replacement
this
cycle? or
is
this
the last year, then 3 years now I've replaced, so I highly recommend everybody that has 2 sets of gear. So we reevaluated with Captain Coons, has been working with that. And so we targeted the 12 more sets right now. Obviously, the new hires anticipated later this year that we'll be ordering some more gear at that time. But this will get everybody up to our current staff with 2 sets of gear.
That also is a 10.
Yeah. That's why we strung it out, so we didn't buy everything at once again, so, so when these come to be replaced, it's not going to all at one time.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Number 6, regarding capital accounts, and I don't know if we're going to read on that or what portion we're going to read. It's a resolution to the purpose of accumulating resource for payments, accumulating for sick leave, vacation time payouts, compensatory time when the person is retired. And that will be transfer of $100,000 into that account from the 10808 account, and not to exceed $300,000.
I will so move on fire 6A.
I'll second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Thank you. Item third, 6B is another capital account, money to be set aside, deposit of $300,000 for radio communication.
I will so move on 6B. Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And 6C is capital account for stabilization budget. And again, that account is a reserve balance account. This will be for 5 years, starting this year, fiscal 2016. Maybe 21J.
I'll move on 6C,
I'll second.
just for further discussion. So this is essentially,
Reserve balance account. The money being put aside for future use as far as anticipation of some spending that we can put aside now. So the termination of this levy, which is in 2020, we're currently in, we'll put money aside to, the goal of this would be is to do a renewal, carry through 2025 without any additional fund coming into the fire department.
To be fair, this particular fund helps protect against like a economic recession, something like that happens, that we are losing money from the same levy that comes in. We're actually getting less, like 2008, 2009. That's actually a particular purpose of this one.
Yes, thank you.
any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And then 6E, capital fund,
Is that actually, Chief, you got 6D?
D is good.
I'm sorry,
Yeah. It would be correct. The fire bill repairs.
fire building repairs,
Yeah.
for purpose of, this would be primarily for the stations that we're doing repairs on right now, roof repairs that we've talked about, and some other repairs, sewer line for Station 4 in the future, so just setting money aside now for those capital improvements to the fire stations.
Awesome.
I'm sorry.
I'll also move on 6D,
I'll second.
just for further discussion, sorry, just clarification, that's everything potentially from sanitary sewer to
Roofs replaced in the next few years,
HVAC.
parking lots, asphalt, cement works, drains.
Any further?
Because obviously, we got, one building's 40 years old, over 40 years old, the other one's 60 years old, so I know there's a lot of work that's gonna be needed to be done, painting and some cleaning up of some of these stations, inside and out.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And then 6E would be for resolution for the purpose of putting money aside in a capital account for our self-contained breathing apparatus, not to exceed the $400,000.
I will so move,
Second.
just for discussion, essentially, Chief, for public
Yeah,
purposes, yes.
our SCBA's were purchased, we actually got our SCBA's in 2008 through a grant we had, so it was $360,000, I think it was at that time. So we actually haven't purchased anything prior to 2008. We had the taxpayer dollars for that grant. 2018, they'll be 10 years old, and the usually recommended lifespan of those is about 10 years. So I'm putting money aside now, so in 2018, there'll be enough money to replace our current SCBA's, which again will be over 10 years old. And, we're looking at 35 to 40 self-contained breathing apparatus that are about $8,000, maybe $9,000 right now a piece.
Is there any further discussion? Pierce? Roll call.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. It's going to take us to the road department. Turn that over to Mr. Iacino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 1 is the monthly report for February. We're not going to talk about snow. Wait a minute.
Can we talk about salt savings?
And fuel, man,
Well, next
overtime.
month.
Let's just keep talking about that.
Not yet.
The roads have held up overall pretty well because of
Yeah,
more.
pretty good shape. We're doing some patching, but there's, those roads probably we patched last year too. When we didn't get there.
With the cold mix that we've used, do we have that new bed?
It's coming this month.
Okay, that's what I was.
Yeah.
You're getting angry because it's not here yet.
He'd be a little angry too with the company last week. So he won't be here this month.
You could be using that now,
I could have used it already.
especially for weekends when they're, keep it heated to start on Monday. We don't have it, we're patching roads right now. Hopefully it's coming soon.
Any other questions? Okay.
Item number 2 is a resolution to direct the highway superintendent to place an advertisement for bids for road materials in a newspaper published in Stark County in general circulation on March 24th and March 31st, and the repository of bids to be received and open on April 14th, 12:30.
I will so move.
Second.
Discussion. In years past, have we done the beacon tour, or has it just been the rep? Has it just been the rep?
It's basically always just been the rep for the cost that. And it does go out to a few agencies that just handle bids for other companies, no call us, so it does get out there.
Okay. Further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
And item number 3 is just Lieutenant Springer already touched on it. We will be assisting them on Thursday, March 17th with an OBI on Whipple Avenue and Hills and Dales, 2 different locations. We'll be setting up the traffic zone for them and everything else they do. From 6 to 11, just, you might want to stay away from that area.
Pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you should come to see how it works.
I'll be in Youngstown, guys, so don't worry about me.
I'm gonna be at a meeting with the township.
Just make sure you have a line invest on.
That's a color.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
It's going to take us to zoning department. I will turn that over to Mr. Ferrara.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item on the agenda is the monthly report.
Any questions, Tom? Tom, outside of the monthly report, just clarification. You attended Tax Incentive Review Council today for Neander Hospitality, which is in the CRA, Community Reinvestment Area. Just for the sake, is that being continued, is there a continuation of that, or?
No, that was approved.
Okay.
A vote taken, and it was approved.
So essentially, for the public's sake, anybody who's interested, there's certain tax abatements and incentives that businesses are given, and every year we have a representative attend to make sure the employers are keeping their fulfillment and job creation, total revenue. And actually, Neander's been a real good partner up there on the hill,
Very
because
good.
they've added the second hotel up there, the Home to You, or Home 2 Suites by Hilton, or I forget. I know Bill and I were at it for the grand opening, so. Okay.
And that is it for this meeting.
Okay. It's going to take us to the Parks Department, Mr. Steinberg.
Thank you, gentlemen. Item number 1 is the monthly report. I did leave the Denver Broncos emblem off the report, even though they did pull that off the February. Told you I get it now.
You did.
Glad he retired. Okay.
Hey, gentlemen, item number 2 is a resolution to allow the township, in particular myself and Mrs. Campbell, to apply for the ODNR NatureWorks grant application to help us replace outdated and obsolete equipment over at Alpine Community Park.
I will so move. Second. Discussion, this is what, Mr. Lino, you've worked with him as well on
Yes.
through the vet vendor and so forth. Okay. Roll call?
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Okay, item number 3 is a resolution to hire Nathan Manko as a seasonal part-time employee for the Buildings and Grounds Department, effective date as of March 8, 2016, at a rate of $10 per hour, paid from Fund 01D01 with no benefits.
I will so move.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Okay, item number 4, it's that time of year again, from Central Farm is a resolution to purchase all field conditioner and chalk from them. It's going to be a very busy season, not to exceed the amount of $2,367.
So moved. Second. Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Item number 5 is a resolution to purchase grass growth blankets from Advanced Turf Solutions at an amount not to exceed $3,000 from Fund 14A05C.
I will so move.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Item number 6 is just a couple of updates on the dog park. I believe Lieutenant Springer in his report mentioned that we did have some vandalism. It was the first time we've had that, so we have replaced the locks, we have put signs up. At this time, with permission of the board, I'd like to send out the press release to let them know that we're really entering the precipice of our spring annual closing, to allow that turf to grow, the grass to firm, and also put some growth blankets down in some of the bare areas so we can get some grass growing there. Usually we close 6 to 8 weeks, it just depends on how wet the weather is.
I will so, well, no.
Now,
Just want to make you aware that I'd like to do that and keep moving forward.
and then obviously replace the signage.
We have already done so, and the lock. So, we also, as Mr. Springer has alluded to, have some measures in place now to ensure that that does not happen again, and if indeed it does, help us to jump on some leads. That's all, gentlemen, thank you.
Nothing from our law director. Let's see, communications. First one, we have a thank you from the city of Canton. Chief, I'll let you read that one since.
Yes, this is a reference to the funeral services that they had for all the firefighter that was killed up on Route 8. It states, to Plain Township Fire Department, thank you for your generosity and brotherhood in our time of need. We will always be indebted to you for manning our fire stations and allowing our on-duty personnel an opportunity to celebrate the life of one of our own. Sincerely, Thomas M. Guerra, Chief.
Number 2.
Number 2 is, to whom it may concern, just like to say thanks to the paramedics that responded to my wife's auto collision on Friday, February 26th at Fulton Hills and Dales, 8 a.m. They were very professional, courteous to my wife, who was very shook up. My brother retired from the Canton Fire Department, and firefighters have always had my admiration for what they do. It may be their job, but they still deserve the thanks for what they do. Respected Tom Stern.
Last one I have, number 3 is from our sheriff, George T. Meyer, and it says, Plain Township trustees, We greatly appreciate your willingness to transfer the title of the 2005 Crown Vic for use by our K-9 unit. Your daily cooperation with our office is also appreciated. Thank you, Sheriff Meyer. That'll actually conclude communication. That does take us to the portion of the meeting, public speech. If there's anybody in the audience that wishes to address the Board of Trustees, we ask that you state your name and address for the fiscal officer for the record. Is there anybody that wishes to address the board? Yeah.
Tracy Rohr. My address is 2514 Clarendon Avenue Northwest.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. I had called earlier and talked to Mr. Ferreira before I realized the meeting was tonight. I live directly across from Station 3 on 25th Street on Clarendon Avenue, which is part of the Hall of Fame Pub. And the best information myself and neighbors were given was in that supplement that ran in the paper. We had heard we were possibly going to be annexed. We wondered as far as the purchase of the properties. I'd just like to get something on the agenda that we can have a meeting, because I think us residents deserve to know if our property is going to be annexed before it happens, to give us a chance to sell it, because right now we're Plain Township schools. We get annexed, we're Canton City schools. Property values drop. I've already had my taxes raised by the auditor's department because they paid inflated prices for the couple streets they brought already up homes from the Hall of Fame. So I know myself and my neighbors would just like to have a couple answers if we could. We know they're having meetings, a Hall of Fame Village with the township that we're not allowed in their private meetings. But we would welcome a chance to have a meeting with you afterwards or some more information on this.
Well, I'm going to touch on a couple things. One, to be able to just annex, that can't happen, unless you're selling and divesting of your property to the Hall of Fame, which means private property transaction deal, which this board plays no role in. Once the Hall would acquire that property, then they have the right to annex it into the city. What they did provide to us during a public work session, has it been 2 months? Maybe a month or two ago?
At least 6 weeks.
2 months. They clearly identified what their footprint is. It's a matter of your public record. They did denote that ultimately where the Hall of Fame Village footprint is, they have, per Mr. Stu Lifter's exact words, they have every intention of annexing whatever properties they acquire into the city of Canton for the sake of operating under the jurisdictional control of one entity. That being said, is the Hall owns a number of those properties over there
Right.
already, and, they're getting annexed in the city of Canton because Canton went out. They essentially took out a note for $5 million to then gift it to this whole Hall of Fame Village project.
Right.
So whatever's done amongst that private property, real estate transaction, we don't necessarily have influence over. What this board is monitoring, and, we have staff going to meetings when we're either finding out about them or trying to initiate them, is, Joe and Chief, you guys were at a meeting just earlier this week talking about some of the infrastructure concerns. It's a meeting that the city of Canton called along with the Hall. There was a number of parties that were not involved with that ultimately do need to be. And when I say a number of parties, it could be from state ODOT to the highway patrol to some of the other governmental entities. When we do get calls as a board, whether it's individually, collectively, or it comes into administration, gets pushed out to us, we've been over whether it's heavy truck traffic and concerns that it's, traversing our roads. I know Mr. Iacino is typically on top of that stuff, so we can ensure that our infrastructure is not being the degradation of it being expedited for the benefit of a private, enterprise or, the hall being non-profit. With respect to the safety services over there, collectively, as part of this board as well as one of our predecessor peers, Mr. Giavasis, we've denoted from day one that our concern is, and I know it's on our chief's mind all the time, how's the delivery of safety services going to be impacted over because of some of the projections of what future volume could bring in. Not only Chief Snyder, but former Chief Sabo and current Trustee Sabo know that it's just a numbers game. There's going to be a certain number of calls to which, knowing also where we're located at, having automatic and mutual aid with, the city of Canton, take a look at those factors, and then compounding it with the fact that our residents did entrust us with some additional financial resources to add additional bodies. Our first and foremost concern and focus is delivering on those commitments to the taxpayers, and all of a sudden not seeing those resources getting pulled constantly into the Hall of Fame Village project, to which the Hall and the city have an agreement that it'll all be ultimately annexed into. That's not
What my concerns were we're not privy to as far as how far they're coming to give us future notice, and I thought the annexation work, we would just become kin, that they didn't have to offer to buy our properties, it was just gonna.
I'll let our law director.
Yeah, I heard two things in there that I want to address quickly. And one is, if your property's being annexed, you're going to know about it. That's number one.
Okay.
And then number two was school district, not affected by annexation. Those boundaries are drawn separately.
Oh, okay.
So it's not like if your property's annexed into Canton and you were a Plain Township or Plain local schools, your kids went to Plain local, that they would have to go to Canton City Schools. That's not how that process works. But as far as annexation goes, there's a whole bunch of stuff that has to happen in the law before you would be annexed, and that includes a public hearing.
Okay.
If you haven't signed an annexation petition yourself, and you're the owner of the property, the only way that you're getting annexed is if 51% of the people around you decide to go in and they take you with them. Okay? And even if that happened, you'd get notice, there'd be a public hearing, you'd have the opportunity to speak, all of those things would happen. So it's not as if you're going to wake up one day and get a letter, and it says, guess what, you're in the city of Canton now.
Right, yeah, we've just been kept in the dark, they made offers to, like I said, the couple streets up before the Circle K as far as Blake, and then the rest of us are in the dark as far as how far they're coming, and like I said, the supplement you put out in the township gave us more information than we had all along.
Yeah.
Kind of spelled it out, so we were just wondering, I had talked last year when Dennis Falk was still here, and he thought certainly they'll have to have a meeting with you residents eventually, but, we had heard nothing.
From the Hall of Fame?
Well,
from
he
Canton?
meant the township, because I asked, I had asked him back then, if he knew how far this was going, what was going on.
Yeah, I
He
think
said
the only
you
thing
guys were
that,
involved in meetings, but I asked, could we attend? And he
Well,
said
on
no.
that,
Yeah.
to be noted that we've had a series of meetings. I think that's definitely a stretch. I'm not sure where the information's being disseminated or the source. I can tell you, essentially, this board individually, this was prior to Mr. Sabo joining the board. As soon as we started hearing about this through the paper, we made calls down to the Hall of Fame, and we each went down to see what was going on, and we went down individually because, if you have two or more of us, it's a violation of sunshine, you have to call a meeting, all of that stuff. But, we went down and we essentially got, with all due respect, it was pretty much the 500,000-foot visionary,
Right.
plan. And of course, that's when we started immediately asking about annexation, infrastructure upgrades, safety service delivery, to really some of, at least my conversations, whether it's the hall or the developer, until we had a public work session here, there's a lot of still unknowns because there's so many pieces that are contingent upon funding, and honestly, in this very early on conversations, they didn't know what was gonna happen at the state level and then through some other private entity sources, and realistically, still with a lot of the infrastructure upgrades. You
So
know,
there's really no way for us from the Hall of Fame or from the township to know.
well, as far as the footprint, I mean, we should have that as part of one of our meetings where they had thrown up a map of what the boundaries are, and I know it was actually in the newspaper.
Well, the drawings sometimes make it look like it's going as far as Broad, you just can't tell. Sometimes it looks like it's going more down 77 towards Mercy.
And they've been careful to say that it's fluid.
Yeah,
right.
exactly,
Yeah,
That is the ending.
You know, what they do,
Right, right.
what they've actually done, and by the way, I appreciate you coming and
Well,
asking
and I
these
appreciate you
questions.
giving me a chance to
Because
ask
actually, you're the
you.
first one,
Yeah, well, I have a
that
lot of
formally has done
I have a
this.
lot of elderly neighbors, this is the
so
problem.
I appreciate that you guys are even paying attention, because,
Yeah,
you know, I'm new on board here, but pretty much understanding historically that whole side of our township, and knowing, you know,
Yeah,
the
most-
growth and how the shrinkage, and then coming on board and recognizing that the Hall of Fame's Phase 1 and Phase 2 is very aggressive.
right.
I
And I've
mean-
only been there 5 years, but like I was saying, my neighbors are elderly and they've been there
Absolutely.
forever, yeah.
And they do need to be concerned simply because Phase 2, or I'm sorry, Phase 3, Phase 4, and then we may be in the dark about this. There may be a 5 and 6 that we haven't even been privy to, because quite honestly, up until just about the time I came on board, there wasn't a lot of dialogue between the Hall of Fame and this board, or a lot of dialogue with the Hall of Fame and Canton City officials, or the school officials. the
See,
school
I
boards.
thought they had to notify the
no.
zoning because we were Plain Township. That's why I thought that would be where my answers would be.
No, what their goal is, what they want to do, is they want to try to purchase property, that makes them the owner, and then it automatically would get annexed.
Okay.
If they tried to do it the other way, and you would meet with neighborhood opposition,
Right,
that would be good. They don't want to do that though, okay? Their goal is to try to buy up property as they can. As soon as they buy it, it'll become annexed, because they're the owners, they're the only owner of it. So we've seen some plats, and for some reason, some of those plats actually show individual lots, and they're bypassing. And I don't know why. We think it's because, is that Stark Metropolitan Housing or something like that?
there
Yeah.
may be further down on Clarendon.
Correct,
There's
yeah,
some apartment
yeah,
buildings,
and
so-
some of those are not in their plan, so there must be something legal perhaps that they can't do with those yet. But, I appreciate you coming.
Oh, I appreciate your help and.
Well, this is just as much your meeting as
Yeah,
every other
absolutely.
resident, so don't ever hesitate. I guess the question I'd like to ask is there anywhere over within that where, you know, hey, maybe it's a neighborhood meeting at somebody's house or something, just for a Q&A to where one of us could come over? I know
I
I would,
had brought that up to Mr. Ferrera because a year and a half ago, through Dennis, I had come in because we had a problem with those garages next door to the fire station. Landscaper had come in and set up a big service under the radar. And because all the residents were elderly, I organized the meeting and Dennis came there to the fire station and we had the meeting.
I mean, I'd be more than happy, you know.
Yeah, I could definitely rally them and get them there, you know, if we could. That's what I had asked him today when I called. I didn't know, you know, I explained there's a lot of elderly ones and.
I mean, our goal is to be as open, honest, and as transparent, literally. I mean, that's where, you know, even the meeting we had is a work session. There was a little bit of hesitation, I think, at first, because at the time they were talking about some tax increment financing that they needed the school districts and the city to sign off on it. That really drove home our push to have the meeting, because I'm going, well, wait a minute. If they're looking to get some type of tax abatement sign off, some of these properties are in play, then we have to sign off on it. Well, then as soon as they said, we're gonna acquire it, and it's all getting annexed into the city, that pretty well took us out of the equation
Right.
on that aspect. So, I mean, we can only speak to literally, you know, what we know, and I know,
Right.
I think Kevin Shiplet and Dave Motz over there have been pretty responsive to any questions we have, or in following up with residents or whatever. So, you know, whether you're looking for a meeting, just having a township representative
Okay.
there, or you want us to coordinate something with a representative from the hall, so.
Also, that would be
I mean, that's
great.
something that can be, that's something that can be done. I would just ask, you know, contact the office, and, you know, whether you want to, I'll leave you
Okay.
my name and number, or you can always call and talk to Tom.
Oh, I appreciate it, and I
Coordinate
can
that.
definitely get the neighbors there. and they
Yeah, I think, Tracy, I think, and Mr. Wahlberg could correct me, but if I lived there now, I would be concerned already what's happened with Blake. One by
Right.
one, they were buying homes. There's individuals that live on some of those roads that aren't ready to go and they're still holding on. So what's happening, they're taking these people are caving in or satisfied on what they're getting on price, and they're selling their home to the Hall of Fame. When those homes are sold, you heard Chief say, or Trustee say, or call Chief, what's happening then, now that gives them that right, when they own that property, that's the part that they pay annex to the city. So if I was you and I lived on your street, along with your elderly, I'd be concerned, number one, when will they be on my street, and when they gotta start asking me when my home's for sale? Because if I personally live there, I might be looking right now for, I mean, and I don't mean to scare you, but this is
No.
what's happening. They're getting individuals, they're catching the elderly, the elderlies are selling their homes,
Right.
some for good prices, some maybe not for good prices. I guess I can safely say that. But if that's gonna happen on your street, you don't have to sell, Mr. Wahlberg, am I right? But I don't know what's gonna happen if you're the last house standing. But I'm just saying, that's something you need to be aware of, that's what they're doing.
Well, and Blake was Canton, Blake was not Plain Township, so they had bought Blake in the street.
No, Blake is
before.
Plain Township.
Yeah.
That's all Plain Township.
Oh, I thought Blake
Oh,
was
no,
Canton.
no, that's all, that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
Bar was, Blake was.
okay, I thought Blake was.
For the longest time, the entrance to the Hall of Fame was in Lake Township.
Okay, I thought Blake was already Canton
No.
when they bought those two streets. And yeah, that is, that is a concern, because we also don't want that in your backyard, because you're not gonna be able to sell your house then either, and then increase traffic and noise.
We
So, yeah,
We have discussed as a board all those issues that we, unfortunately, we don't know how rapid or how aggressive that's going to go beyond those first two phases.
thank you.
No, thank you, actually. I'm glad that you were looking at that and thinking along the way that we were trying to get the word out
Right.
to our residents. Because that affects, not only does it affect you guys directly, that affects everybody else from a tax base.
Thank you.
And service provision and all those other issues.
Right.
So, thank you for your
Well,
interest.
thank you, and I will definitely talk to the neighbors, and then if we
Yeah.
could set something up, that'd be wonderful, and even could possibly get a Hall of Fame official.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I'm sorry for getting here late, I had come from work.
No, actually, it was just
Fine.
perfect time, so,
Thank you.
thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to address the Board of Trustees? Okay, that'll close out public speaks. It will take us to concerns of trustees, and I simply wanted to provide a couple updates to the board. And that I was our representative to go to the mandatory health department forum. They did elect to the board of directors over there, a gentleman by the name of Brandon Kale. There were only two applicants for one position. The other individual who sought the role was an attorney, Robert Murphy, but Mr. Kale was elected. The more important piece I really wanted to bring up is, I know we've got a significant number of septic systems still in Plain Township. And the health department they've been able to secure, again, grant money to the tune of about $300,000 that can help homeowners with failing systems. So should there be homeowners in Plain Township that have the need for some potential supplement assistance, contact the Stark County Health Department. That $300,000 goes pretty quick. They've got different reimbursement rates at 100%, 85%, and 50%, and that takes into account some poverty level thresholds, but I thought that was something of value and benefit that needed to be noted. Outside of that, I did attend the SCOG meeting March 1st. Essentially, they gave an update on the rollout of the CAD system, and I know Chiefs kept us very well apprised of that, so not much different in the comments there, some growing pains, but the staff out there is getting more and more comfortable with it, and I know even when I was out, Lieutenant Springer actually took some time to take us down and dispatch and show us it in work. It really is impressive. The other outstanding notable piece from the meeting is the crime lab has been operating under an interim director for about 2.5 years down there. They're going to complete some interviews with two individuals, so hopefully within the next, by our next meeting, SCOG meeting, we'll be able to know if a determination, decision's been made on one of those two candidates.
That's the director of crime.
Yes. So those were the only things that I had for SCOG and the health department. Anything else under concerns of trustees by either of my peers?
Well, thank you.
Concerns of the fiscal officer? Okay. That's going to take us to the approval of the minutes. First being for the regular meeting of February 23rd, 2016, for which I will so move.
I'll second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Saba?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes. And the second is the approval of the minutes for the special meeting, February 26, 2016, and I will so move.
And I will second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Saba?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes. There is a need for executive session, so be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to adjourn to executive session at 7:19 p.m. from this regular meeting is authorized under Ohio Revised Code 121.22G for the purpose and consideration of 4, preparing for, conducting, or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions for public employees.
And there's one more, and it's 121.22G8. I'm not going to read the whole thing again, but it's essentially to consider confidential information with regard to an applicant for economic development assistance, or to talk about negotiations with other political subdivisions regarding economic development assistance.
Second.
Was there a second?
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Saba?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.